Hello and welcome to another episode of, well, I guess it's not really, whatever, another episode-ish sort of thing of my Steampunk series. So what we have here is what seems like just a normal room, but in fact, it's a very, very efficient and easy to use cobblestone spawner. Now if you'll give me a second to swap to creative real quick, survival, I'll show you just how well this works. So as you can see, you simply mine out any one of these and move to any other one there on the ceiling. And this very quickly helps you mine cobblestone. And very quickly it will be replaced. So as you can see, there's a whole ton on the floor here. Circular motions are usually best. And so as you can see, it's very, very fast. And also, I haven't mentioned it yet, but you've seen so far, to get into the spirit of the steampunk, I have downloaded Glimmer's Steampunk texture pack. Now, on to how this works. In here we have a clock, as you can see, and this dripping lava and water from the ceiling. Right here is where, between these two blocks, is where the cobblestone is spawned, and see, as you can see, there's the output. Now this clock sends a signal through the entire facility. These 5 pistons push inward on this corner, which fills in a half. Here the input goes in and pushes on the piston on the opposite side of the spawner, which I'll show you how to build this single spawner outside in a few minutes. And that pushes onto here. It continues on with, I must add, there's a 1 tick delay. This is set up to have a 1 clock. There's 1 tick for every cycle of on state. This is necessary for the pistons to not interrupt each other. If there's a longer delay, that means the piston is extended longer, and that means it's harder to line up these 2 pistons. This one has to be delayed. As you can see, I've got 2 delays, 3 delays into this piston to push it into here, to make sure this piston is fully retracted before this one tries to push out anything. And that allows this to actually be able to push out. If you don't time this right, you'll get these both trying to extend at the same time, and nothing will get pushed. So that's important. And simply a little timing and also extending of the pulse repeaters being used for repeater's sake. And so, as you can see, it simply repeats around, doing the same exact thing on every side. And so these 5 will push out on one top. The room is 10 by 10 on the inside. So these 5 push out 1/2, and then another corner pushes out another 1/2, and they all kind of overlap, so that every block in the ceiling where you would mine out the cobblestone, every single block has 2 places it could possibly be refilled from. Increasing this to any more causes the 2 on each side to overlap, and if it doesn't fill up, you have this kind of shifting back and forth of the entire row. So you can use it if you'd like. It might be faster, I don't know. I just don't like the shifting back and forth. It gets kind of noisy. So I do exactly half the length with my pistons and make sure I repeat it in the same exact fashion every way. Now, we have another little thing that I have to show you here. This setup right here is an override toggle. It's special designed, though, for a clock. There are a couple of important factors that go into this. The override toggle is just simply a switch that gives a constant on state to a function. While used in conjunction with a clock, it keeps the clock from updating anything and keeps a constant pulse, or a constant flow of energy, however you want to call it. And yeah, there's little errors with walking on and off of the repeaters. I can sometimes fall onto the floor like that. But anyway, there are three components necessary for this. This is to keep the pulse from sending backwards through this line if this line excuse me there, if this line has any other input. So if, for instance, you had a circuit that required another function of this line, you would not want this clock to be constantly turning it on and off. So that is an alternate use of the repeaters that not a lot of people talk about, but it can be used to, I'm not really sure how to say what the technical term would be, but it can be used to block a signal as a one-way gate, basically. And so that's what this one is. This one is also a one-way gate because of this pulse. When you override, you don't want it to touch the clock because that'll screw the whole clock up, set the whole clock to a constant on state, because as you can see, this is an even-powered clock. An even-powered clock requires an alternate setup method, which, for the sake of demonstration, I will show you how I go about setting up a one-pulse clock. This works because of the wonky features of the updating of redstone. So what we have here, it's power, constant power going into this block, which means a redstone torch on the side of the block would be off. However, when placing the block, for one tick it will be on, thus starting the clock. Sets the clock in motion, and then you can simply break it away backwards, and you've got your clock running. Now, the one thing you have to worry about these clocks is, of course, that they're even powered, which means an outside pulse can screw up the entire clock, and it will have to be reset completely. So that's what this one is. And this last piece is sometimes necessary, though technically in this section it's only necessary to keep this from interfering with this, or vice versa. In this one, it's used to keep the pulse from this and this from being different lengths. Otherwise, our override toggle would not be right here. Actually, it would be the same length, but if they weren't, if this were back here, because of length needs, other types, there are other necessary things that might happen to cause you to need one of these. This makes sure that both this and this become the same signal length. Otherwise, pretend this one's back here and this one's not here, then the signal length from the override would only reach here, and so every time the clock pulses, it would still get passed, and so the whole thing would still keep going and the override would be useless. So that's the three components of my little override toggle, customized for a clock. And that, whoops, is how the entire inside works. You need to turn the override toggle off. And so you simply come in here and mine out your ceiling, and it will refill itself. So, if you'll give me a second here to make it stop turning night. Whoops. No, that's the right place. Okay. I will now show you how to build my personal favorite cobblestone generator. Technically, this whole building is not absolutely necessary. I will show you a couple more things that you need to be aware of. I put light stone, glowstone, in the top simply because I like it to be light. I don't like it to be dark up there when I'm mining it out. It's just, I don't know, personal preference basically. But you do need to fill the entire layer one block above where you're mining, or the updating, the pistons pushing in to replace it, will catch your drops, your cobblestone, on top of the new layer. And thus they won't fall down properly. So, that should be all you need to know about this itself. So, onto how to build one of those that I have inside. I have 4 of these inside, each one pointing down one side in a circular fashion. I don't need that one. So, what you're going to want here is you have... I actually do need that. It'll give me just a moment. What you need for this to work is 2 chambers, as you see on either side. One for the water and one for the lava. And here you place a piston. That piston is going to be what keeps what pushes out your output of cobblestone. Now I like, once again, this is a personal preference thing, I like to destroy, whoops, any extraneous and unnecessary blocks. Keep it kind of simple, easy. Now you fill water one side and lava in the other. The first time you do it, if you're doing it in a place and it's all full of redstone and you need to make sure not to fill it with redstone, make sure to block off both sides of the output before, and make sure the cobblestone is formed up before the water flows out over everything. That could be pretty bad for your mechanics. But as you can see, it's a very simple little design. You simply have 2 chambers, a bottom floor to route the water and the lava towards each other, and they'll form a cobblestone in the middle. And then what you need here is quite simply, here, let me make sure this sets up right. You'll quite simply just need a piston to push it with. So, you could set this up with a clock. Your clock does need to be decently slow. Too fast, and I'll show you what happens. I'll simulate a fast clock. See, it doesn't actually give it enough time every time to form the next cobblestone block. So, my personal clock, I built my clock at 5 and 5. So, it's a 10 clock. It's on for 1 tick and then off for 9. Whoops, wrong lever. Now, yeah, that does sometimes miss, and sometimes it doesn't allow it enough time, but I feel it's a decent trade-off for the speed at which it refills. You know what? Nah, never mind. I already destroyed this. So I'm gonna take this apart, and we actually have a couple more things to show. Actually, that's just about it. However, I'll be back in a flash to show you one more little thing. Oh, and that there, just to let you know, that's going to be part of another episode. Don't worry about that for now. It'll be out in a few days. Alright, so I'll be right back after I get this ready. Okay, I'm back, and just as a little demonstration, I'm going to show you approximately how long it takes to go from all the cobble mined out to all the cobble filled back in. I'll just kind of show you how this works. As you can see, it fills in, usually follows a very rotational pattern. Now, filling it in from absolutely nothing takes a little while. I'm sure it's very noisy in here. Here, I'll turn down that sound real quick. Turn that down a little. Okay. Not sure if that even helped, but it's not extremely fast, but you gotta realize how long it's going to actually take you to mine out every individual cobblestone. Technically, this is plenty fast enough to fill back in while you're mining. Now, of course, being in creative mode, I can destroy everything in one hit. But if you are to follow my design exactly, you can do different tweaks, add a few more pistons if you like. If you decide to copy this design, which is quite simply just those generators I showed you outside in these corners, push along here, and then right at that output, along the side of that output, we have the pistons to push them along. See, here's one that you can actually see. This is the piston on the back side of a generator. So that's all it really takes. It's kind of resource heavy. You can build a much lighter version of this. It will or won't, I'm not really sure, refill as fast, but it definitely won't look as fancy. And that's kind of the idea of this series. But anyway, I hope you enjoyed, and if you want to see more of this kind of stuff, subscribe, give this video a like if you liked it, comment if you have any suggestions for things you might want me to do. Anyway, that's it for now. Bye bye.